Good morning, everyone. Today, the topic that we're going to be discussing is the relationship between education and happiness. The two variables I used from the General Social Survey were EDUC as my independent variable and CESD3 as my dependent variable. EDUC is how many years of education a person has completed, 0 through 20. And then CSD3 is how happy a person has felt within the past week. And those answers are none or almost none of the time, some of the time, most of the time, all or almost all of the time, don't know, no answer, and unapplicable. So now that we have discussed some of the background of the topic, we'll get into the variables, the figures.
Of the total participants, 2,858 individuals responded, and 9 individuals either put DK for don't know or did not answer, so NA. The largest subpopulation within the participants are those who reported they completed 12 years of school, and this percentage comes in at 28.8%. The next largest subpopulations are 14 years and 16 years at 12.6% and 17% respectively. The highest percentages reported appear to correlate with the number of years it would take to complete certain educational programs. That is, it takes 12 years to complete high school, 14 to attain an associate's degree, and 16 to complete a bachelor's degree. There were significantly less respondents to the dependent variable as seen in the frequency table. Out of the available 2,867 respondents, only 966 actually responded. The largest valid percentages reported were most of the time and all or almost all of the time. The valid percentage for these is 49.6%, reporting they felt happy most of the time within the past week, and 25.6% reporting they felt happy all or almost all of the time within the past week. Only 3.4% of those who responded reported feeling none or almost none of the time. As we can see in the bar graphs here, there are noticeable peaks in both data sets. For highest year of school completed, peaks at 12 years, and then for how much time felt happy within the past week, it peaks at most of the time. In these next two images, you can see the central tendency and dispersion for the two variables, as well as the mean, median, and mode for the two variables. Here you can see the cross-tabulation for the two data sets. These calculations allow us to observe relationships between the variables. The number of years in school has been recoded in this cross-tabulation in order to change the data type. Years of school has been ordered in categories 1 through 5 relating to different levels of school programs. Middle school through graduate school. When viewing the data from a cross-tabulation chart, the 10% rule does apply. This rule allows for an easy calculation to determine if data is worth researching further or not. In any given row below, the smallest percentage will be subtracted from the largest percentage, which gives us an epsilon. When the epsilon is greater than 10%, then this indicates a relationship. From the table, the top row provides an epsilon of 2.8%, then the epsilons are 9.4%, 14.2%, 13.8% moving down the chart. The last two categories appear to have the strongest relationships out of the whole data set. Based on this output alone, there appears to be weak association between the two data sets, yet no positive or negative correlation is apparent.
For further analysis, we'll begin with the significance test, which is an analysis of variance, and we'll use ANOVA. The ANOVA test tests the differences in means in two or more data sets. The first step in testing the hypothesis is stating the research and null hypothesis. So the research hypothesis is there is a relationship between years of education completed and feelings of happiness, and the null hypothesis is there is no relationship between years of education completed and feelings of happiness. The significance level that I chose for this test is 0.01 or 99% significant, and this value represents alpha. The significance for the ANOVA test is at 0.082, as we can see in the comparison between groups under SIG. This value represents P. So when P is less than or equal to alpha, then the null hypothesis is rejected. So since P is equal to 0.082 and alpha equals 0.01, then P is greater than alpha, so the null hypothesis will be retained. This calculation means that there is no significant relationship between years of school completed and feelings of happiness within the past week. Next, the measure of association will be covered. This test determines the relationship between variables. After analysis using measures of association, the determination of how the two variables relate will be known, non-existent, negative, or positive, and we'll be using the gamma test for two ordinal variables for this. The research hypothesis is there is a relationship between years of education completed and feelings of happiness, and the null hypothesis is that there is no relationship between years of education completed and feelings of happiness. The significance level again is set at 0.01 or 99% significant, and this value will represent alpha. In the symmetric measures box, there are several important values. The gamma value 0.070 shows at what percentage of accuracy one can predict the dependent variable if the independent variable is known. That is, one will know with 7% accuracy how happy a respondent is in the past week if their years of education completed is known. This is a very weak and uninteresting association. There is a very weak relationship between the two data sets. There is no positive nor negative correlation. This table also displays the p-value approximate significance of 0.082. The significance for the gamma test is 0.082, as we see in the symmetric measures table under approximate significance. This value represents P. When P is less than or equal to alpha, then the null hypothesis is rejected. So since P is 0.082 and alpha is 0.01, then P is greater than alpha and the null hypothesis will be retained. Because the gamma value is so small in predicting one's happiness based on knowledge of how many years of school they have completed, it's very difficult to predict this, and you'll have a 93% chance that your prediction will be incorrect. This value also represents the proportional reduction of error, or PRE. The PRE is the percent of accuracy we can determine the dependent variable when the independent variable is known, which again is only 7%. Current literature on this topic also shows that education and happiness are not directly related. Just because a person is more educated doesn't mean they will be happier. Instead, much of the research shows that through mediating factors such as job security, pay, benefits, health and wellness, social status, and others, happiness and education are related. This means that though education and happiness are not directly related, education can enhance other aspects of a person's life, leading to happiness. Overall, my research fit well with the current literature, as it demonstrated that the two variables do not share a close relationship when examined directly. It is through additional factors that I did not include that the relationship is eventually seen. Thank you for watching, and please see a list of the peer-reviewed scholarly journal articles demonstrating the relationship between education and happiness and the mediating factors discussed. Thanks again, and have a great day.